Mormonism is perhaps one of the most influential and one of the most wealthy religions in the world nowadays. But it was not always so, and it's a church that's only a little over 150 years old. This project is designed to tell the truth about the origins of Mormonism and about Mormon history up until the early 2000s. You will not get the truth from most Mormons, especially most Mormon leaders, about how Mormonism originated, about the character of Joseph Smith and many of the early LDS presidents. And you will not get the truth about what Mormons actually believe from the mouths of Mormons themselves. And this may be either because they don't know it themselves if they're not deeply involved in the church, or because they have been instructed to hide the deeper theological truths of the Mormon church. Any explanation of Mormonism must start with the life of Joseph Smith, the founder of the Mormon church. Joseph was born in 1805. But before we get to his life, I'd like to read a quote by Joseph Smith that he gave on May 6th, 1843. He wrote, "You will see the Constitution of the United States almost destroyed. It will hang like a thread. A terrible revolution will take place in the land of America. The land will be left without a supreme government. Mormonism will have gathered strength, sending out elders to gather the honest in heart to stand by the Constitution of the United States. In these days God will set up a kingdom never to be thrown down. The whole of America will be made the Zion of God." From its very beginnings, Mormonism was not only a religious belief system, but it was also overtly political. And the early Mormon vision for the church was for it to be a theocracy, with a mixing of church and state. And many Mormons still hold to this prophecy. On November 9th, 1999, Orrin Hatch, one of the most famous political Mormons, said, "I've never seen it worse than this, where the Constitution literally is hanging by a thread." That harkens back to Joseph Smith's original prophecy. Joseph said, "It will hang like a thread." So when Orrin Hatch said this, he obviously had this white horse prophecy of Joseph Smith in mind. So not only was it a belief, this theocratic vision, not only was this a belief of the early Mormon leaders, but it also remains a belief of Mormons today, and especially Mormons who already have significant political power. Mormons see their future as a part of God's plan, God's divinely ordained will for humanity and for the earth. Mormon journalist and University of Utah spokesperson Fred Esplin wrote this: "Mormons believe they have a divine commission to prepare the world for Christ's millennial reign, in which they will serve as officers and administrators. The faithful saint believes he is building the kingdom of God. This is what motivates 30,000 full-time missionaries, 60,000 as of 2002, to preach the gospel. And this is what keeps men in their 80s working at a pace that would pitch younger, less motivated men into their graves." So the vision of Mormonism is not only religious, it's not only theological, it is intricately entwined with politics. And their vision is to form a theocracy. Brigham Young repeated this prophecy when he declared, "When the Constitution of the United States hangs, as it were, upon a single thread, they will have to call for the Mormon elders to save it from utter destruction." So when Senator Hatch mentioned that the Constitution would be hanging by a thread, he was simply repeating a commonly held Mormon belief. In a 1988 statement by the Mormon Church's 13th president, Ezra Taft Benson, who was also the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture from 1953 to 1961, Benson wrote, "Joseph Smith predicted that the time would come when the Constitution would hang, as it were, by a thread, and at that time this people, being Mormons, will step forth and save it from the threatened destruction. Then the elders of Israel, the LDS leaders, widely spread over the nation, will at that crucial time successfully rally the righteous of our country and provide the necessary balance of strength to save the institutions of constitutional government." Nixon's Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, George Romney, commonly known name now, wrote the following: "Anyone can look at the words of the prophet Joseph Smith, Brigham Young, and others. I have always felt that they meant that sometime the question of whether we are going to proceed on the basis of the Constitution would arise, and at this point government leaders who were Mormons would be involved in answering that question." So Mormons, since the beginning of Mormonism in the early 1800s, have been making political preparations for the time when the American Constitution, in their words, hangs by a thread. They are also certainly making financial preparations. U.S. News reported in November 2000 that by almost any measure, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is one of the world's richest religious movements. The estimated grand total at that time of its business-related assets was at the $30 billion mark. If we ranked it on a Fortune 500 list, it would rank 243rd. Also, around the year 2000, the membership of the LDS Church was approximately, the worldwide membership was approximately 11 million people. The Mormon Church is one of America's largest landowners, with property totaling around 1 million acres. So not only have they been preparing politically, but they've been preparing financially as well. LDS author Dwayne S. Crowther asserted in his 1979 book, Prophetic Warnings to Modern America, there will be a complete change of government. Washington, D.C. will cease to be the capital. The present national bureaucracy will have its end. The internal conflict will sweep away the current system of governments and will pave the way for the political kingdom of God and the millennial kingdom through which Jesus Christ will rule and reign. A new government will be established among the saints, and that political kingdom of God will espouse and uphold the principles of constitutional government. One must ask, what kind of constitutional government? In theocracies, it's never the kind of government that respects anyone other than the majority or those in power. So it certainly would not be a democratic government that we are acquainted with. It would be a theocratic government with Mormon rules and Mormon laws as the laws of the land, and any disagreeing with those laws would be punished. So in the series of videos that you will see, we will be answering the question of who are the Mormons, what do the Mormons believe, how did the Mormons begin, a bit of history, actually a lot of history, about the Mormons, especially throughout the 1800s, whether or not the Mormon Church can be considered a Christian church, or is it a completely different kind of theological system. So I hope you will join me in this journey. In the next video, we will be talking about Joseph Smith's early years and the beginnings, very beginnings of the Mormon Church. So I hope you will join me for that. Thank you.